Drop and Give Me 20 is brought to you by Germono Advertising Company. Drop and Give Me 20 is the podcast for military entrepreneurs. Each episode is around 20 minutes long, giving entrepreneurs a glimpse into the life of other successful military entrepreneurs, learning from their obstacles and gaining insight and inspiration. Podcast episodes focus on the stories, challenges, and wins military entrepreneurs have faced in their businesses. I am your host, Lindsay Germono, and thank you for tuning in. Drop and Give Me 20 is brought to you by Germono Advertising Company. I am your hostess, Lindsay Germono, and I am here with a very dear friend of mine we go back, Jessica. We go way back.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to do the math. I mean, it's not that long, like 5 years.
It was through Amplify.
Yeah, so that was probably 6 years ago.
That's changed.
Yeah.
You had a kid.
I have 2 kids.
You had a couple kids. Jessica is one of my favorite people. This whole season is very special because normally Drop and Give Me 20 is all about military entrepreneurship, and that's all fine and good and very important. So play those episodes, but also play this one because I'm talking to movers and shakers within our industry. I thought it was incredibly important and high time to do that, where I'm picking people that I know are very well tapped into our space. They're doing a lot of really great things. They're showing up, which matters. And Jessica, I just want people to get a sense of how important that is. If they're getting ready to start an entrepreneurial journey or looking for work, even, maybe they don't want to be a business owner, but they're military and they don't know where to start. So I would love it. I would love it if you introduce yourself to our listeners and tell them a little bit about your background and what organization you're with at this point.
Yeah. So my name is Jessica Hall. I have been an Army spouse for 10 years now. We just celebrated our 10th anniversary this year. And so we've lived all over. We're currently in the East Bay in Northern California by San Francisco. My husband gets his master's degree. So kind of not in Army world right now, which is a little bit weird, but a nice break, as anyone can imagine. And my background is in journalism and digital communication. So if we go way, way back, I graduated from NYU with a bachelor's in journalism and history. I got my master's in digital communications at University of Washington when we were at Joint Base Lewis McChord. And I've primarily worked with nonprofits since then and done freelance work in between, focusing on social media, website strategy, and just like management, communications planning. Kind of, if you've ever worked at a nonprofit before, you probably understand that you wear a lot of hats. You're there for the mission. And so you might do a little bit of everything, which is what I find myself doing a lot of days. So I'm currently with United Through Reading. We have been around since 1989. We connect military families through the power of shared story time. So if you've ever experienced a deployment with a little kid and gotten video recording in the mail with a book, that was us. And we do it now with an app. It's super fun. It's great to do even not during deployment. My family uses it not during deployment now. So that's kind of the pie in the sky, 30,000 view of who I am, what I do.
So United Through Reading was something that, we talked about last season with Sally. And what was really incredible about it is just hearing how Sally's journey came to it. But in my sense with Sally was she was like, look, I'm just here. Everybody else on the team is making all the magic happen. I really loved that.
She's a fantastic leader in that sense.
Talk to those that are listening. We have, obviously we have entrepreneurs that are listening, but we have some that might not be entrepreneurs and they're facing a PCS or something that's going to take them, with the workforce, how it is, and they're only going to be somewhere for 6 months or 12 months or whatever. Did you experience any of that? Especially with your education, you've got a master's, for goodness sakes. Like, do you come across that obstacle that some of
Yeah, definitely. So when after I finished my master's, I had a job, a really great job with a statewide nonprofit in Washington State. And then we got PCS orders to Fort Huachuca, Arizona, which is southeastern Arizona, about an hour and a half from the next major city of Tucson. And I couldn't keep my job. It's just the type of environment that I worked in. We just, you could work remotely from home in Washington, but I needed to be in Washington to do the work and see the work. So I had to quit. And that's when I started freelancing. So I freelanced from about May of, that was 2015, until I started this job, which was August of 3 years ago, 2018. So I freelanced for about 3 years, and I got my first client by just, we collaborated with other nonprofits, and someone needed help with their newsletter. They liked the newsletter I did at my last job, and so I helped them do that. I also pitched military spouse blogs. So that's how I skipped this entirely in my bio. I was the social media manager for Next Gen MilSpouse for a couple of years and ran their podcast or edited their podcast with the awesome team at the time. And I just did it by pitching. And honestly, freelancing and being an entrepreneur is not totally my wheelhouse. I definitely had like some outstanding invoices. Like I know there's some people that owe me like $100 here and there. I'm just not like great at being like, hey, you owe me money, you owe me money. And like figuring out the taxes. It's not for me. So there's a lot of really great resources to find remote work. And I think it's only getting better for military spouses. There's groups like VertForce that's all they do. You have Hiring Our Heroes. That's how Lindsay and I met. They have a number of programs that connect you not only in your area, but also just virtually with people. And a lot of times I do just suggest to people, if you have a job, I think especially now in like post COVID times or whatever we're calling what we're in now, um, remote work has become more normal. And so if you're in a position where maybe you can do it remotely, pitch it to your boss so that you can keep that job when you leave. I actually did that when I first got married to my husband. I kept my job from New York City and I did it for about 6 months until we moved to Washington, and I found a job in Washington. And I just said to my boss, hey, I want to keep working. This is a job that I can do from home. Now, what I didn't do was, how do I'm trying to think of the right words to say this. I don't think I advocated enough for myself to be able to keep moving up in that position. And so it kind of stalled out, and someone else, like one of my peers, started moving up, and I just kind of stayed stagnant. And you don't want that in your career. So you have to kind of find that balance, and that hopefully have that rapport with your boss or your supervisor that you can continue those growth opportunities within a position if you're able to move it to remote. Now you can't do that with every job. Like I said, I quit a job because I just knew it wasn't going to work right just because of the environment and the work I did. But now I'm in a company that we're entirely remote. It was like a unicorn job when it popped up, right? Like remote, salaried, benefits. I can PCS with it. I work with the military community. Those jobs are hard to find. I think they're becoming more and more prevalent. I think you see more companies looking for that, which is awesome. But it's really frustrating when when you move and you have to leave. It sucks. I mean,
I would say like in the past decade too, you've just seen so much momentum that that's very promising happening with this remote work, and particularly speaking, organizations that just get it, like they understand if they can build a model that's sustainable for remote work, then to do it. But prior to that, it was very hard because the environment of doing business 101 was, you have a brick and mortar. Where is everybody? What cubicle is this person sitting in? And I just think it's incredible. It's something that I think military spouses particularly are just, we're way ahead of the curve because we're like, yeah, we've been, welcome to our life, but like,
We've been doing this
yeah,
forever. We've
what
been
do you,
building these opportunities
yeah.
for ourselves. Yeah, it's nice to see the rest of the workforce kind of see that. I know we have a partner that we work with, and they're downsizing their offices because they realized that remote work worked for their employees in the last year and a half. And they know they're not going back into office anytime soon. So they're, getting a smaller space for now. And then they'll probably expand it a little bit more as, you know, we get out of this pandemic.
Mhm.
Um, but I think it's interesting to see those more traditional companies be like, oh, wait, like you guys really like this and we're still getting all of our work done. And maybe we had too many meetings every day. Like, awesome. Like,
Yeah.
let's do it. So I think it's really awesome to see that. I think it's nice to see it because I feel like it was an uphill battle like just a few years ago even.
So, what do you feel is still needed as far as, careers for military spouses? I mean, we can talk about it for from a virtual, work perspective, but like, is there, if you could have one wish for the military listeners, and again, this is very relevant because what we see in the military spouse entrepreneurship space is they'll typically not see opportunities, and so they kind of create or that entrepreneurial itch is scratched, because they're like, oh well, I'm just going to start a business. But that's not
Yeah.
always what I have found is that's not always the dream of everybody who starts a business. It's just they've made lemonade out of lemons, So, but kind of taking that step back for those that are listening that might be in this space where they're in that, we're about to PCS, or how do I carry that career with me? Um, yeah, what's still needed in your opinion?
I think one, it's still really hard for businesses to figure out all the nuances of hiring or having employees in different states. I know you and I have talked about
Oh
this
yes.
before with your business. And you see it in job postings all the time. Like they're only hiring in like 15 states. And you're like, well, why can't you hire in my state? And I think some answering those questions and making it easier for businesses to figure out how to hire in every state, because I think I would like to think that these companies would hire people anywhere, but they have to figure out the taxes and the laws and how to do that. And that's a huge barrier. And then the other thing I see is I want to see more like middle and upper management level jobs that are
Yeah.
remote. A lot are very entry level, and you need those. And I don't want to discount that because we
No,
all
I hear
start
you.
out there.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
that's been my most difficult thing when I PCS, when we moved from Fort Huachuca to the Austin, Texas area. My husband was stationed at Fort Hood, but we decided to live about halfway between Austin and Hood because I said, my jobs will be in Austin. No offense to Colleen and Harker Heights, but like, there's nothing there for me. So I was in this weird middle level. I'd worked for about 5 years. I was overqualified for the entry level, but all of these middle jobs are filled internally and they're not posted. And I wasn't qualified enough for the senior level jobs. And so that kind of mid level career area is so difficult, I think, when you're moving. And I've said it before at something I spoke at. I think it was the MOA career
Mm.
symposium a few years ago. And, I don't, people are like, well, I don't want to do I have to keep going back to entry level? And I was
Right.
like, no, like, do not go back to entry level, fight to get there. And you might have to take a step back. I've definitely tried to like baby steps
Mhm.
back and gotten been paid less than what I deserve
Right.
just to have a job so I
Right.
could pay for my kids to go to childcare. Um,
Some
so that I
sanity around here.
yeah, like I am a person, I love my children, but being a working mom is like my jam. Like I
Yeah.
need my time.
Right.
Um, but how can we find that middle career space is, I think, the most difficult to PCS during. And I think you find that a lot
Mhm.
of spouses are moving during that time. And so how can you bridge that gap. And I don't know if there's an answer
Well, I
to
think that
that, but
the more that we talk about it and those that are listening, someone is listening and goes, yes, that's actually the situation I'm finding myself in. This is where change happens. It's, you start voicing things that you're recognizing and it may be out there and other people are like, yeah, that's happening to me too. The first thing you said with the taxes and the hiring and it being across states, I could not agree more. It is incredibly frustrating, especially as if you have somebody that you've set up payroll for in that state that for their home of record, but they PCS and that's not a state that you've set up in. And I don't know what the fix is. I just wish somebody would do it and do it quickly because
yeah.
you are seeing it. And I totally agree with you in some of the job postings. Because I see how people are positioning jobs because I like to have really great employees. And so I kind of look at it from a like, what could I do to make my employees like happier and stuff like that. But I'll notice that they only designate a certain amount of states. And you know what? I know why. It's because the other states are a pain in the butt to either get on board or it's not cost effective. So, and that stinks because, and I've talked about that until I'm blue in the face. So, dear Starbucks or whoever's listening that has the manpower or woman power to put the efforts behind it, please do that because we need that.
Yeah. And I mean, even as the spouse, it's confusing, right? Like
Yes.
I've been a spouse for 10 years and I know, like, I hope the IRS is not listening. Like, I know I've been doing like my taxes, my
The
driver's license, like,
IRS, if you're listening,
oh,
don't.
I've been doing it like wrong. Like, I'm sure I'm like,
Well,
we
it's
have an,
not easy.
we
There's
have
no
an
designation.
accountant. We have an accountant.
Yeah.
It's okay. I know I'm
Yeah.
not like doing it completely wrong, but I'm finally 10 years later, like establishing the Military Spouse Residency Relief Act and tying it's switching my state of residency to what my husband's is, which is Washington State. He
Mhm.
switched when we lived there. I'm kicking myself for not doing it when we left 6-7 years ago now.
Yeah.
And it's fine. I can do it now because we have this law and it's a great law and it's super helpful. But like we just need a cheat sheet. And I don't think they're for
I
both
think
sides. And
honestly, I think it needs to be a third party organization or company that is, funded by, a program so that they don't have to worry
yeah.
about, choosing sides or anything like that. But maybe that'll be my next business that I create, but I don't even know how to create it because it's a headache. And I talked to, so Erica McMahon's, she's with
Yeah.
Instant Teams. She is an incredible resource in our community. And one of the things I really love about her is I can pick up the phone and be like, hey, do you have an employee in like New Jersey? Because I'm just getting ready to start. And she's like, oh, yeah, let me tell you what you need to do. So, but I would have never known how to figure out some of these obstacles without somebody like her. And she's a military spouse business owner just like me. And so it's incredibly frustrating for a business owner to do the things that is right, which is you want to retain. Churn costs a lot of money, to
Yeah.
hire somebody and to retrain them and all that. That costs a lot of money, and it ends up being very taxing on the business. So if you can keep the people in place that have been in place, it's a win-win for everybody, for the individual, and the sustainability in their career, and they stay with I think studies have shown that they stay with the organization longer, even if there's a little less in pay because of the security involved, and they
Yeah.
have a sense of, they're doing positive work for their careers and all of that. But anyway, I agree with you more. And as you can tell, I get really fired up about it. So take it
I
down a peg.
I should have known that I was gonna like fire you up because I know
Yeah.
this is like one
It's
of
a hot
your
topic.
things. But it's hard. And even like within our company, we use an outside HR to do like payroll and all of that. And I called to switch like all of my stuff. And they were like, we have to call you back.
Yeah, they were like, bye. You have the wrong number.
And I ended up calling one of my coworkers and I was like, do you like which state? Because she lives in California as well. I was like, do you claim California as your state of residence? She was like, no, you have to do this, this, and this, and send them this paperwork and you're good. And I was like, okay, I'm glad like you
Yeah.
know this. But
Yeah.
again, like I sent feedback to it's a big company, but
Mhm.
overall I like them. I'm not gonna like air their name, but I sent them feedback and I said, hey, look, like you need to look into this Military Spouse Residency Relief Act and just like have a tab on your customer service like line for military spouses because I'm sure I'm not the only person that's ever called about this.
I really try to do everything right, but I know that there's probably something I haven't checked off as an employer, and it keeps me up at night. So I really do try to do everything that's possible, but
It's hard. I mean, you have to
hard.
track a lot of things. And there's
Yeah.
only so much you can like even comprehend to
I told
start
you
with.
guys, she's a mover and shaker. These are the conversations that I really love to have because like I said, it's those that are listening, I've heard one person told me, so I've heard that they felt very isolated in their journey, and so they were like, "I really like the podcast because I feel like I get a sense of there's so many people that understand what I'm going through," and so that is what I really found in Jessica is just the sense of like she gets it. She's an incredible resource as far as the military community goes, and like I said, she's really tapped in. So you're not someone that I think turns off. Like I see you on, we're in Facebook groups together and I see you commenting on stuff and I'm like, but it means so much because I know that you're taking that kind of higher level of experience and just kind of guiding folks that might, need a little hand every now and again. And Jessica, I will tell you that that's not often found within our military, right? Like in
It's sad. I mean,
at
I
our
see
base,
it.
no one reaches out to me. So I find my community in you and the individuals and that's a whole another podcast. But my goodness, aren't we
We
the
could
ones?
have a whole podcast episode about the biddies in Facebook groups like that are just mean girls or mean
Yes.
boys. It's really sad.
Get out of them. Remove yourself from that group immediately.
Yeah.
Trust me. The toxicity, there are so many other groups that are warming and helpful and will help you advance in your careers. Those are the groups you need to be in, not
Yeah.
these drama real housewives of X base. I'm
No.
not even in, I don't even, well, I'm in mine and it's been a good one. So my installation has a really good spouses group. There's not been, but the previous base I was at, I was like, I can't with you people. This is why we're not going to get changed because people are acting like this. But
Oh
um
yeah, no, like I've been in those too, and you just leave. You
bye.
can't, or I mute it, I unfollow it, and I only go look in it if I really need to find like a hairdresser or
Right,
whatever, and I
right,
just
right.
the search
Childcare.
bar. Yeah. But no, and I was just thinking because we're talking about retaining employees,
Yeah.
the flip side of that, and something I did, and I just want to share it, and I try to share this when I see this question come up in questions. If you can't move a job to remote and you know that, like say you work retail or you work, in customer service and you work in a storefront, a brick and mortar, give your employer enough notice that you are leaving that they can find someone before you leave and you can train them. And I think that was one of the best things I did when I had to quit in Washington was I told my employer like months in advance. I was like, we're moving in May, probably. And they were like, that sucks. Like we had a good like, sad moment about it. And then we put together a plan to hire my replacement. And that allowed me, I try to stay out of the hiring process itself, but it allowed me 2 weeks of turnover time with the guy that replaced me. And so I could show him everything I did and show him like the systems and we're friends now. And um and that created a good success for the employer because they didn't have a lapse in the position because when an employee is out, you know, they're either hiring extra help or they're contracting it out, and like sometimes that's more expensive than having an employee.
Yeah.
So just and then you get a good reference out of it too. They're like, oh, and then she ghosted us or he
Right.
ghosted us. Like gave the 2 weeks and was like, peace out.
Yeah.
There's a lot that goes into turning over a job.
Mhm.
And there's stuff that you do every day at work that you don't even like think about that you do it anymore, right? Like, and so if you have that time and that space to have that turnover with your replacement, it's just a win-win. And just something to think about. Sometimes you don't have more than 2 weeks notice to give because
Yeah.
that's when you get your orders and you have to like get out of Dodge real fast. But if you're able to do that, if you're able to provide that support, it will help you out in the end. Like I know I could still turn to my old boss and they'll say, they'll give me a good reference, and not just because of that, I worked
Mhm.
my butt off in that job, but it helps for sure. So just think about all those things as you move through it. Like you don't want to burn bridges. You might go back to
No,
that
you don't
base.
want to burn bridges in life, in military, and I would even say in our military entrepreneurial space and the movers and shakers. You burn a bridge, we will know. Somebody's going to tell
Oh
us anyway.
yeah.
We're all
Oh, for
friends with
sure.
each other. We see each other at conferences. We that here's what happens. You do me wrong. If I see you somewhere and I see my friend Jessica getting ready to talk to you, I'm going to pull Jessica aside and I'm going to go, hey, you're going to make your own decisions in life because you're a big girl, but I just kind of need to give you a heads up so you're prepared for how you want to navigate that. Not don't navigate it, but just here's what, here's what
Yeah.
my experience was. Because that's what we do. And I think that that's what really is something that I don't know if you find it so much in the civilian world as much as you find it in the military world.
I think we're so much more tight knit that you
Yes.
find it a lot more in the military space. And even as when I go out and look for new vendors for my position, I start with the people I know and I go, who do you use for this?
Right. Right.
Who do you recommend? Who do you not recommend?
Exactly. Yeah.
And, I have my list of those people too.
Sure.
And usually, I mean, my list is sometimes mainly more professional experiences, but there's also, I have a list of people that have just rubbed me the wrong way, and, or I've seen how they act in a Facebook group, and I don't know if I want to be associated
Amen.
with them.
You are the third. I batch record, and Jessica, you're the third recording today. The one right before you, who's going to air, Kelly Artis.
Oh, Kelly is
She,
great. Can we do a podcast with all of us? That would be so fun.
yes, yes, we can. She alluded to that as well on this isn't a good look for my brand, me personally. So I don't think I want, to proceed in this, you know, relationship as far as business goes, because, of a vibe or something that they may have said in a whole other, conversation. But we're watching, we're seeing the conversations, and like I think that is something also. If you're someone who has an iota of empathy inside you, doing good out in the social media world returns tenfold. So I've had people recommend individuals to me for work because they saw how that individual reacted to things. And so I thought that that was just a really incredible thing. Jessica, you're a mover and shaker. I'll say that 10 times more. But is there anything else you want our listeners to know before I get to the really silly stuff of the podcast? Yeah, now that I've freaked you out.
I know, I'm trying to think of like words of wisdom or something.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think you work hard and you don't give up. I mean, it's possible to work for more like traditional employers as a military spouse and move your career. It takes work and you have to be creative, but you can totally do it. And there are people out there that are willing to talk to you about those experiences. So just ask. And just I wouldn't give up on it. I mean, it's hard. I'm not gonna lie, it's hard, but you can figure it out. People, I mean, I've met military spouses that were, spouses before, the internet, or as Facebook
Yes.
wasn't what it is now with
Our
like
elders.
Facebook
Yeah.
groups.
Yeah.
And they were able to find jobs. I used to work with someone that they ended up just staying, and they did stay put, but they kept a job for, 20 years with a, pension and everything,
Hmm.
um, as a military spouse. And, I think it makes me happy that we've come to where it's easier for us to move our job around, because
Yeah.
geobatching is not for me, but, and our family, but, it's hard. People have been doing this for a long time, and just ask the questions and be open to the feedback. Don't like shut people down when they tell you,
Yeah, it might not be something you want to hear, some of it, but there's good and lessons in there.
Yeah, I mean, the one question I always see in Facebook groups is like, I want to work from home and I have my kids are here with me. And I know people that they can make that work, but know that that's not always the case. Like I didn't see my own paycheck for like a year because I just sent it straight to daycare because that's what we needed. I can't work with my kids. I can't work as efficiently and effectively with my kids at home. And there are jobs that you can do that, but just that job might not exist for you. And just, don't push back on people when they tell you that in Facebook groups, because that's the one question I see all the time. Like, it might just not happen. And you just have to have those different plans in place.
Awesome. Where do our listeners connect with you? What's the best way? Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn?
My Facebook is like pretty locked down. So
but
I'm in the group. So like if you see my name, you can definitely reach out. Instagram is a good spot to find me, or LinkedIn. And then if you want to know more about United Through Reading, you can reach out through those channels. I also check our social media. I'm not the only person, but you can find me on all those channels too.
Jessica, who's your favorite actor?
Oh my goodness. I wasn't prepared for this.
No. So fun.
I really like Kristen Bell.
She's amazing.
I love funny.
Her. She's so funny. I love her.
I want to be her friend.
Me
just
too.
Seems fun.
She just is real as I love she talks about mental health a lot. We need to hear that stuff. I love it. I love that
she keeps it real.
She does. And I was watching her and Dax. They have a game show.
Oh, I've seen ads for that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cute. All right. My next silly question is last purchase from a military-owned business.
This is such a pandemic answer, but my favorite like masks, I'm actually kind of sad that she like isn't making them anymore, but there's a company, Daisy Faye Designs. She makes like cute pouches too. I actually don't have one on my desk, otherwise I'd show you, but they're fun to like, put your things in your purse or just like grab and go. And she made the best masks. Like if you are listening, Kim, like please bring them back. Like I still need them.
Can you please make them for Jessica
and my husband? Because like somehow he lost all of his, and I had to buy him new ones from Target, and they're not as good. So,
all right.
Anyway, that's I think my last. I'm sure there was another one, but that's the first that came to mind.
Okay, and then the last question: does pineapple belong on pizza?
No.
Thank you. I knew I liked you. I knew it. This is why I don't think it belongs on pizza. Everybody was like, "Oh, well, what about a Hawaiian pizza? It's not pizza."
No.
It's a flatbread with stuff on it. And I love pizza. It's my favorite food, so I should know these things. Thank you, Jessica, for playing the Lindsay is really crazy and thinks of these really stupid questions, but I love it. I think it's just fun. I have so many more. You want to do a bonus one?
Sure.
All right. I have them all written out here. Okay. What's the worst candy of all time?
Ooh, I am not like a black licorice fan.
Second person that has said that today. You and Kelly both don't like it.
Okay, I'm serious. Kelly, Lindsay, Jessica podcast episode. Maybe just hang out. Maybe no one else should listen to it. But
and the fun thing for our listeners to know is we didn't know each other before the military community. Our military community brought the three of us together. We started networking together. We've seen each other at conferences and events. Be present in those things, have conversations with those around you, because you never know. 5 years later, they might be on your podcast. So
yeah, no, totally. Yeah. And, I love the fun questions. Michelle used to do it on the Next Gen podcast, and it was always fun. I know Amy does it on her podcast too. So.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us and kicking that wisdom to our listeners. Those that are listening, I will tag Jessica's handles in the show notes. And if you're watching this on, YouTube or whatever that you get your content from, you'll see it in the verbiage for the show notes there. And Jessica, thank you so much for all you do for us as military spouses and for us as individuals. I'm thinking of you, your family, everybody out there, and stay well.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. This was super fun.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Drop and Give Me 20. Drop and Give Me 20 is brought to you by Germono Advertising Company, and we would love to invite you into our network of military entrepreneurs on Facebook. Just search for Drop and Give Me 20 and join the Facebook group.